Sneasler. Everybody right now is fighting about how Sneasler is bad for competitive Pokemon. The problem isn't Sneasler though, because it's not a new thing. Back 11 months ago, Wolfie VGC had already found out how Sneasler and how good it could be.
One of these Pokemon was Sneasler. I already thought that I wanted to use Rillaboom on my Worlds team, and Rillaboom's Grassy Surge ability can combo nicely with the Grassy Seed item, which gives a Pokemon a defense boost if grassy terrain is up. This also activates Sneasler's Unburden ability, basically doubling its speed and making it tankier.
As you can see, this was 11 months ago, way before Regulation H, and Wolfie was already putting Sneasler to work. But a lot of people feel like it is a fresh discovery, like they hadn't ever seen it before. Along with the Pokemon that it's now known for being with, which is either Indeedee with the Psychic Surge ability and the Psychic Seed, or Rillaboom with the Grassy Seed, like Wolfie mentioned, this Pokemon has taken storm, becoming one of the most used in the past 2 regional competitions, at Louisville and at Lille in France. So what can we know about Sneasler? And why is it such a widely used Pokemon? Well, Sneasler gets a lot of good utility things. For example, its Unburden ability doubles its speed as soon as it consumes its item, which makes this Pokemon in those Psychic Surges or in that Grassy Surge the fastest Pokemon on the field most of the time because it already has such a high speed. The other thing that's making it very viable right now when people run it is Focus Sash and Poison Touch. Poison Touch is one of the abilities that once they touch you or once you touch something, you have the ability to poison that Pokemon. It gets a status. But that's not the only status conditions that Sneasler can do. He has a very unique move pool we're going to talk about here in a little bit. But we're going to start off with his stats. So it has a total of 510 stats. That's very respectable. But you can see this Pokemon is a cannon. It's a glass cannon. It doesn't have much defense, no special attack whatsoever. That's fine, it doesn't need it with that 130 base attack, and it has 120 base speed. To give you an example, Pokemon like Maushold have 111, Raichu has like Maushold has 110, Raichu has like 111. This is a fast Pokemon, and those are considered fast Pokemon. So for this format, this is one of the fastest mons. Now imagine doubling this. Let's say you're at 189, you maxed it out, you double that with Unburden, you are looking at the fastest Pokemon on the field unless it's like Prankster or Priority. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean this Pokemon is going to be good though. It could be fast, but what makes it even better is that staggering attack. Attack of 130, that is going to put in some work. And as you can see, attack is its highest base stat. Let's now look at the resistances. Now it is immune to nothing, which, mind you, doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. It's weak to Flying Ground and Psychic, but with Terra you can make up for that a lot, especially Psychic. 4 times weakness, Terra Darkness, you kind of get over that, right? It takes normal damage from a lot of different things, but what it's resistant to is Fighting, Dark, Poison, Rock, Bug, and Grass. Now there's a lot of Rillaboom. It takes 1/2 damage from that. Now there's a lot of fighting types out there right now that are getting used. A lot of dark types. We have Gambit. The good thing about it is that it's really strong. Really strong. And it deals super effective damage with its typings to Steel, Fairy, Normal. So it has some good things going for it with the typing as well. Now let's look at some of the moves this Pokemon gets. Now this Pokemon's basic bread and butter move is Dire Claw. Dire Claw has a 50% chance every single time you use it to status the Pokemon. And within that 50% chance, it has a 16.6% chance of 3 different statuses, which is crazy to think about. You can get paralyzed, you can get put to sleep, or you can get poisoned. Remember we talked about Poison Touch earlier? So if you have a Dire Claw using Poison Touch Pokemon, and that 50% chance doesn't pop any of those statuses, the fact that it touched it might pop the poison. So you have a really high chance of putting a status on any Pokemon that you use it on. The other thing is, with such a high attack, this Pokemon does a lot of good things with its signature other move that it learns at level 60, Close Combat. Now, it's not its signature move per se, but I have not seen a Sneasler that does not run Close Combat. Direct Claw, Close Combat are essential on every Sneasler. Another thing that it runs a lot is Protect. But now let's get into those moves that you can teach it by TM, because this is where a little bit more sauce starts coming in, right? We talked about Protect. One of the moves that it gets taught a lot because it's frail. You want to make sure that if it's not in a good position, you can protect, right? Another thing is with that Unburden ability, remember the speed gets risen and also the item is used. So moves like Acrobatics double when your item is used. That's a 110 base flying type move. If you make it Terra Flying, that's going to hit like a truck. It also has really good like different types of moves. You get Metal Claw here, you get Rock Tomb. You can see how it has some different abilities here. Also, it could be a backup Weather Setter, which I don't see it being used this way anytime soon, but it could be. It could be the fastest thing on the field. Let's say you're going up against a Pelipper who set up Rain Dance and you had a Torkoal out, Sneaser's out there as well. You want to change it back into Sun without switching out. There you go. You switched it in with Sunny Day, and now your Torkoal does that super effective damage. But there's also things that it gets that are super interesting because it's hard to touch Goldango with this Pokemon, right? Because Goldango is a Ghost Steel type, but it gets some good things like Shadow Claw. If you wanted to run Shadow Claw on it, you could. A lot of people right now, though, are running Throat Chop because Throat Chop is a really strong dark type attack. I think it's the strongest one that gets. And it puts in some work. It also stops sound-based moves in case you're going up against like a Primarina or you're going up against like a Hisuian Zoroark, right? So it has a lot of good utility as well. Besides the great TMs it gets, it also gets some really cool breeding moves. Let's go through the list here. Counter, Double Hit, Fake Out. Fake Out is the one move right now that is kind of taking off. Now, a lot of these Sneasler that are starting to be run with Psychic Surge obviously don't run Fake Out. They run something else because Fake Out is a priority move and Psychic Surge nullifies priority moves, right? But it has the ability to be on there, and it's being used a lot with the Rillaboom teams. Now you have two Fake Out users. The other move that I wanted to kind of take note of is that Night Slash, because Night Slash has a high chance to crit, and it's only 10 points less than that Throat Chop. So it could be a viable option. It is really strong, and if you Terra Dark, I mean, you could get that little extra boost that you wanted. I would have to run the Calcs right now, but I think it has potential because of the high critical rate. Now this is a Pokemon, again, it's been debated recently if it's worse for the game than Urshafu. Let me give you an example. If you had a chance to use Urshafu, or if you had a chance to use Sneasler in Regulation G, who would you use? The answer is pretty simple, Urshafu. And that's my response to the thing. I think this is a very good Pokemon, and it might be broken for the regulation it's in, but once that power creep comes in and it's no longer the fastest thing on the field and it gets hit by some mons that are really, really strong, I think this Pokemon goes back to just being a good Pokemon, not a broken Pokemon. Urshafu is a broken Pokemon in that power scale. So obviously I would take that any day, but for what it is with its base stats, Sneasler is really, really good. And again, we've had legends like Wolfie Glick tell us about this months in advance. You see, 11 months. About 1 million people had already seen this. So we know that it's not just something that is brand new that people are discovering. It's been known about. It's just that the power levels right now are giving it a good platform to be a menace. That doesn't mean that there's no way around this Pokemon. It is a good Pokemon, but it also has its flaws. Again, if you choose not to run a Dark type move, it can't touch Goldango. If for some reason you don't make it Terra Dark, the Psy Spam teams will take it out in a heartbeat. It is a Pokemon with flaws, but it's also a Pokemon that's very nice to counterbalance that fairy weakness that you might have on your team, to counterbalance that steel weakness. I've seen a lot of Sneasler been run specifically to be taking out Archelodon, which is another Pokemon that's problematic in this situation with rain on other teams, right? But I think that in itself, Sneasler isn't much more of a problem than the other Pokemon. It all depends on what you build around it. And Sneasler isn't necessarily a Pokemon you build around, it's a Pokemon that can be used in any team. And that, I think, is why it has such a high usage at those regional championships. You can put it on a Psychic Surge team, you can put it on a Grassy Seed team, you can put it on a Rain team, on a Sun team, you can put it on any type of team, and it has different things. You can go Focus Sash, you can go a Seed of any type, running that on Burden ability, you can put Poison Touch, you can do, there's so many different options for it, and you can make it fit to you, and that's why it has such a high usage. Pokemon like Rillaboom, for example, they have their one position. They're gonna set up Grassy Surge, and they're gonna kind of just either fake out Wood Hammer, Grassy Glide. That's their role on the team. Sneasler is more diverse. In a Psychic Seed team, where it's in a Psychic Surge situation, you Terra Dark, it can be your answer for Goldengo, it can be your answer for all those things that are super effective against your Indeedee that's setting up the Psychic Surge. They have a really good synergy because of that. Also, with Unburden, it's the fastest thing on the field, even outspeeding things like Dragapult, who are weak to that Terra Dark. But Terra Dark isn't necessarily its only option. It has Terra Flying with the acrobatics like I had mentioned. It has other Terras that could be really good for it. The moveset on it is fairly always the same, switching in Throat Chop or acrobatics for that fake out. But you always want to run Dire Claw, Close Combat, and usually Protect. I've seen some lately been using Coaching, and they do Coaching into their teammate. But I don't know, I almost ran it like that for the Grand Challenge. I don't know if Coaching is a better situation for any type of Pokemon that you have on your team or teaming up with. I think that Protect and the Fighting, Dark, and Poison move are relatively what you want. This Pokemon has a lot of use in that way. Plus, if you do a Seed and you set up Psychic Surge or Grassy Seed, its special defense gets a buff. So there's that. Now you have a Pokemon that might live a special move that it wouldn't before, because the special is already kind of decent. It's at 80 special defense. So, you get some work out of it with a little bit of a boost. It's not a setup mon at all. It's here to hit hard and hit quick. It doesn't really do well under Trick Room or any other situation like that, because it's meant to be the first thing to hit, because its stats don't support that. So thank you guys for going with me on this journey, kind of overlooking Sneasler. I had to do it because I've seen so much. Is Sneasler worse for VGC than Urshafu? And Urshafu will always be the problem child. Any generation it's in, it will always be the broken one, specifically Rapid Strikes. We've seen it. Pelipper just does so much for that Pokemon, getting it the buff and taking care of the things that it's weak to, and just kind of making sure he's good to go. But that's for another video, and maybe when Regulation G comes back at the beginning of early 2025. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you guys thought this was useful, go ahead and give it a like, subscribe. I'll catch you guys in the next video.
Crispy bread, crispy bread, crispy bread, crispy bread.